Hi, I'm Izzy and I am part of the horticultural team here at the chili farm. And today I just want to talk to you about overwintering chili plants, which yes, you can definitely do. So the first thing you want to do with your plants is you want to check for the best plants that you've got. So looking over for things like disease and infestations from aphids and other pests already. So you want to select like your best ones for the best chance of survival over winter. You kind of want to be overwintering your chili plants once temperatures overnight are dropping below 10 degrees. So this is for us around now at the end of October in the UK. It's sort of the best time to do it. So you've selected your best plants, or perhaps you've only got a few and you just want to give it a go of all of them, and that's absolutely fine. You probably will have like chilies still on them. Like you can see here, we've got some Scotch bonnets. They are dried out on the plant, but if you want to use them, take them off, obviously. When we're pruning back, it seems quite severe. Not to worry, it sounds horrible and it seems horrible, it's absolutely fine because you do not want the plant to be wasting its energy over winter into keeping the foliage good and fruits. So you're going to be taking quite a lot off, and it seems harsh, but it's the best chance of it surviving over winter. So you want to get your secateurs and you want to make sure that these are ideally sterilised before you start, so you're not introducing any disease to the plant when you're cutting it. I'm going to be taking this down quite low, ideally about 10 to 15 centimetres of stem is still left. And as you can see, there are some little nodes of growth already on this plant. So you want to be leaving those and sort of cutting about here for this one. And you just take it off. Seems horrible, but it's absolutely fine. As you can see, or hopefully you can see, there's the nodes of growth already up the stem. So this is like a good amount to leave for this particular plant, but you just want to have a look and see. That is ideal. One of the things that you do want to do as well when you are checking this plant for disease and pests and anything else is I can actually see that there were mummified aphids on here. So it did have aphids this year at some point, which have actually gone now. I can't see any fresh ones, which is good. However, they can be dormant in the soil, in the compost over winter. So I would repot this on. And also, you just want fresh compost. It gives it a new sort of lease of life. And yeah, there's just sort of no lingering disease in it, which is perfect. So you take your plant out of its pot, just gently. You get another new, freshly cleaned pot. Like, it doesn't have to be like sterilized per se, but making sure it is actually clean. Maybe you've done soapy water. That's good enough. And you just knock off gently. You're not grabbing the roots. Like, it looks quite rough, but I'm actually being very light-handed with it. You just give it like lots of taps to get this compost off as best as you can. You're not going to get like a lot of it off, but that top layer especially, just give it a little shake. So you get your fresh pot and your fresh compost. Just put a little bit in the bottom. Get your plant, just be gentle with it because obviously there's lots of roots. You don't want to be too manhandling with this. Get your fresh compost, and as you would do with potting on, keep shaking it, getting it down the sides, making sure there's no air gaps or anything down there. Not crushing it, but just making sure it's firmly in there. And very importantly, label. Know what your plant is. Pop that in there, and I would just give it like a little bit of water at this point, just a little bit, just to make sure the compost is sort of compacted down again. Where to keep it over winter? Some people like to keep theirs in the greenhouse or the conservatory, and that's generally okay because it's out of the actual air in the open space in the garden, which can get frosty. However, I find that they can get a bit cool over winter. It's best to sort of keep it somewhere which might be quite stable or like has sort of like an average temperature. So in your house is ideal on like a good sunny windowsill. So something south facing is ideal, is perfect. So if you can do that, wonderful. Now the key point is definitely not to overwater this. As you would already know from looking after chili plants over the summer, you don't overwater them. They absolutely hate it. So you would probably check the plant maybe once a week and just give it a feel. If it seems really bone dry, then you do want to give it a bit of water. But honestly, you might only be watering these plants maybe once every other week, if that. And you can just gauge this. And definitely no feed on this over winter until you start to see some fresh growth coming off the plant in spring. Then you want to start feeding it with a very low dose. And we use chili and pepper focus, and it's normally about 5 ml to a litre once you start to see the fresh growth in the spring. One question that we quite often get is about people who wash their roots as they're repotting on. You can do this if you want to, but it's really not something you have to do at all. So don't worry if you haven't, like I've just done there. You don't need to be washing them off. Over here, I have overwintered some plants that we'll be making into bonsai chilies or bonchi. And these have been pruned back really hard. As you can see, they would have been about this kind of level, so a lot going on, a lot of branching, and then pruned back to this. But the point is, I pruned these back a couple of weeks ago, and there's already quite a lot of new growth on these, which means that the plant is happy, and I have not watered these for like a good few weeks now. The only thing I would say is that these would need to be potted on into some fresh compost, because this has got like a thick build up here, and it's just a really good idea to make sure it's in fresh compost so there's no aphids or anything lurking or disease.